What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Clemente Collector. And on today's episode, have you guys ever bought a card from Fanatics Collect? If so, did you feel like you got a good deal on it? I want to talk about Fanatics Collect and the various other auction sites available outside of eBay. And is it worthwhile to use them? Is it worthwhile to consign to them? I had some thoughts and I did a deep dive on it. Let's talk about it next.
Batting third, playing right field, number 21, Roberto Clemente.
All right, so just today, Sports Card Madness had Rick Probstein on, and they broke huge news, in my opinion, in the sports card industry. Anybody that's watching this, I'm sure, has bought a card on eBay from Probstein. And I believe he's definitely the biggest consigner of sports cards on eBay after PWCC left the platform and recently got bought by Fanatics Collect. So Rick recently said, if you didn't see it, that they are working on their own auction site. It's going to be called Bid. I think it's BYD. And they're gonna be selling stuff other than sports cards. They're gonna be doing live auctions. It's not the same as Fanatics Collect, where it's just auctions and buy it nows and things like that. But it really got me thinking. I was thinking, what what's all the sites I use to look for Clemente cards, and I started listing them. So obviously eBay, My Slabs, Fanatics Collect. I look on Heritage. I look on REA. I go to Collector Connection for their auction. I also obviously go to some card shows. The National and Strongsville are the biggest ones I go to. I also sometimes get cards from Facebook. And that's just off the top of my head. It's getting pretty crazy out there as far as places that collectors can go and buy cards. It is. It's I can't tell you the amount of times that I've looked up a card to see, what price it's selling for to get an idea, and I found out that it's sold somewhere that I wasn't aware of, and then I missed it, and that it went for a decent price. And as a collector, that gets very frustrating. Also, as a collector, you could say, hey, the more places that sell cards, the better chance we could get a great deal. Hard to argue with that fact, right? But the first thing I thought when I saw Rick is gradually possibly breaking away from eBay, he said he might still put some listings on there and things like that, is, man, that kind of sucks, because eBay is probably where I buy 99% of the cards I buy online. And it's just very convenient. I can look up a certain card, and Probstein's listings come up there with everybody else's, right? And my other thought was, why would anybody consign to them? Like, eBay has the most eyeballs. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that why would you think that you're going to make the best profit if you're selling cards if he has his own site, right? So those are the two big thoughts that came to my head. And I'm curious, how many cards do you guys buy from My Slabs? I still haven't bought one. I've watched a bunch of cards on My Slabs. It never seems like there's a great deal on there. I know they were buy it now for a long time, and they recently also have an auction option, I believe. I've yet to buy a card on My Slabs. I'm curious to hear if you guys have bought one on My Slabs. I've yet to buy a card on Fanatics Collect. I've watched a bunch of cards, never got one on Fanatics Collect. I'm curious to hear some of the, if you guys use any of these sites that are off of eBay now, and what your experience has been as far as getting a good price. And it really got me thinking. On the point of, like I said, if I was selling cards, why would I use Probstein if he has his own site now? It doesn't seem like it'd be worthwhile. And I said the only comparable is Fanatics Collect, who broke away from eBay and has been doing it for a little while now. PWCC, we know the checkered pass with shield bidding and stuff like that. So what I wanted to do was, I wanted to do a deep dive. I wanted to look at I ended up getting 10 cards here. I wanted to look at 10 cards. And my question to you is, I have 3 Mantle cards, 3 Aaron cards, and 4 Clemente cards, and they all sold this year on Fanatics Collect. How many of the 10 do you think sold for less than average VCP price? How many of the 10 sold for less than average VCP price for that card in that grade? What's your guess? Because my guess going into it was going to be probably, I was thinking nine or eight sold for under average comp was my guess, to be honest with you. The results are more than shocking. I I'm wondering what you guys think after you see these results, to be honest with you. I was beyond shocked with these results. And if somebody came up to me and said, hey, I don't know a whole bunch about cards, but I have cards that I inherited and I want to sell them, where would you suggest selling them? And Fanatics Collect would probably be one of the lowest options that I would suggest to somebody. Honestly, like before I ran the numbers, right? I'm just talking about if somebody asked me yesterday, I'd give them the eBay option with a consigner. I'd give them an auction house option. I'd maybe hook them up with somebody I know that sells at card shows. Fanatics Collect would probably not even come out of my mouth as far as an option goes. Before I ran the numbers, I also want to let you guys know, I also looked at their policies because my concern was PWCC had the issues. I was curious what Fanatics Collect policies look like. I was going to highlight them on the screen, but just extra work for me to do. But basically, Fanatics Collect does not allow you to bid on your own cards, which is pretty normal for any site, right? The other thing, though, is they do not allow employees to bid on cards. So right there, that tells me that they're saying that they do not allow shill bidding, right? Their own employees are not allowed to bid on the auctions. So that's the background. The other background piece for Fanatics Collect is when you do an auction with them, there's a buyer's premium of 20%. And it's not, they have a chart on their site. I'll put it up here. But basically, if it's like between 0 and 50, they get all 20. If it's between 60 and 100, you get like 1% of the 20%. And as you go down, you could go all the way down to $1 million card and you get like 15% of that 20% back as the seller. So basically, they just have just different levels of how much of the 20% they keep, okay? But the other thing I'm going to tell you is the numbers I ran have buyer's premium already included. And as a buyer, I know we're savvy enough to add in that buyer's premium when we're buying a card online, right? So if it's a $100 Clemente card at the Hammer, I know I'm going to pay $120, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, this snuck up on me. So it's good that the buyer's premium is included in these prices because it gives us what the seller should have known they were buying the card for. So without further ado, let me show you some of the cards. Why don't we just start with Mantle? How about that? All right, so the first card I'm going to show on the screen is a 1951 Bowman Mantle in a PSA 7. It recently sold on Fanatics Collect for $78K. And then over here, I'm going to show the VCP average and the last 4 VCP sales of all these cards. PSA 7, the average sale is $74,286. And by the way, the VCP average I have on here is based on the last 12 months. So the last year, what this card sold for at a PSA 7. So it sold for about $3,700 more than the average, all right? So, okay, but it sold for more than the average, all right? So let's look at the next one. The iconic 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle and an SGC 1.5. So it sold recently on Fanatics Collect for $36K. A lot of us wouldn't be able to afford a card like that with the budgets we have, but we can dream, right? And then the VCP average for that card is 34,686. So once again, the Fanatics Collect number was actually higher than the average, which is pretty surprising, but it's a big card. I'm sure a lot of people knew about the auction and whatnot. So let's go to the next one. A more low-key card here, something that a lot of us out there could possibly buy. A Bowman 1954 Mickey Mantle card in a PSA 4 grade. It's sold on Fanatics Collect for $1,920. The VCP average for this card is $1,217. So you're talking about a difference of close to $700 from the Fanatic sale to the average for the year. I understand vintage is based on eye appeal. Maybe you think this card has amazing eye appeal. All we're looking at is averages versus recent sales, right? So take it as you will with that one. All right, let's do Clemente next. All right. So we have 4 Clemente cards. Let's start off with the iconic Clemente rookie card, 1955. It's in a PSA 5. So it's sold on Fanatics for $4,200. So the average for the grade of a PSA 5 is $3,935. So once again, Fanatics Collect, the sale was higher than the VCP average, okay? Next up, the 1956 second year Clemente card, SGC 7. They actually sold 2 of them on Fanatics Collect, like in the same auction, and they're both, I believe, graybacks. One sold for $2,200 and the other one sold for $1,950. The average is $1,857 for this card. So both sold above VCP average. Next up, 1957 Clemente in a PSA 8 sold for $3,120. The average for this card in a PSA 8 is $2,476. So we're talking about a $644 increase to the average, and that's about 26%. So that card did very, very, very good. All right, 1958 Topps PSA 7 sold for $1,200, and the VCP average is $1,038. Okay. All right, let's go to Hank Aaron. I know my friend Matt will be happy to see some Hank Aaron numbers. I know a lot of guys out there love collecting Hank Aaron. Let's start off with the iconic rookie card. Fanatics Collect recently sold a PSA 5.5. They sold it for $10,800. The average for that grade is $7,171. We're talking about a difference of $3,629. It's almost a 50% difference. Insane. 1955 second year Hank Aaron in a PSA 7 sold at Fanatics for $3,000. VCP average $2,406. $594 difference. All right, last but not least, Hank Aaron third year, a white back PSA 7 sold on Fanatics for $1,770. VCP average $1,346. You could go back through, you could pause the video. I have the last 4 sales. As you see on the 4 sales, I highlight the Fanatics sale. I basically went on the Fanatics site. I went to sold listings. I typed in Mickey Mantle. The first rookie card I saw, I grabbed it. The first second year card I saw, I grabbed it. Hank Aaron, I did the same. And then I went on VCP. I didn't cherry pick. I'm obviously you could see from the VCP, these are the recent sales of these cards. I didn't go on there and try to find data that worked for what I wanted to do or anything like that. And I know this is a small sample size with high grade cards. I understand that. Somebody might say, you know, I'm a low grade. I personally look at my showcase. I collect great eye appeal cards, but they're not high grade, right? So a lot of these cards are outside my price range. But I've gone on Fanatics Collect, and so far I haven't found great deals on cards that I normally would buy, right? So, you know, you could look at it a couple different ways. Did anybody out there predict that all 10 cards would be higher than the VCP average? I did not take a card away. I didn't try to get a perfect 10. I didn't. I have no incentive. I found the results actually shocking, to be honest with you. So back to my first point, Probstein starting his new auction house called BYD. I'm guessing his company has made a lot of money. It's made him very, very rich. I'm guessing they've looked at Fanatics Collect, they've looked at whatnot, and they figured out that it was worthwhile to do this. That that they're gonna make the same or close to the same amount of money per card as eBay does. And obviously they're not going to have to pay, eBay's not going to take their chunk, so they're going to get the whole amount. It's hard for me to sit here and say don't use Probstein when he has his own site after seeing Fanatics Collect data. We recently saw PSA has recently had the vault, and they partnered with eBay to sell straight from the vault to eBay. I've actually bought, I think, one card in that way, and it was actually an SGC card, which was kind of weird, but I'm guessing collectors, you could put anything in the vault that's SGC or PSA, I don't know, or maybe any slab card. But I saw, we saw that shift recently where PSA is selling stuff straight from the vault. I'm curious if PSA sees this and they possibly also break away from eBay and they use the vault and they have the sales on the PSA website. Or maybe they move to the Fanatics Collect website possibly. It's all really interesting. I know like I said, as a collector, I appreciate the fact that I could hunt for deals possibly because there's so many different websites out there. So not everybody can see everything. Like I miss stuff all the time, but I also, like I said, I feel like I miss a lot of stuff because it's just too much. People that have full-time jobs, it's a full-time job now to keep up with all the different auction houses and all the different places you can go to buy cards now. It almost feels like, are any cards in people's collections anymore? Or are they all just for sale? I don't know. It's just crazy to me how much inventory is out there, right? But I hope this video got you thinking a little bit. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. Everybody have a great rest of your day and happy Valentine's Day. I'll see you guys on the next one.